once we've decided the main ideas we want to grab some information for, well, the next step is to go ahead and get some information. Of course, now you might want to start with this step. Maybe you just want to gather a lot of information first and then organize it later. Either way is just fine. But for example, let's say that let's go ahead and find a definition for dramatic monologue. So the first thing you want to do is find a good reputable source. So let's go up here, and here's the Poetry Foundation, poetryfoundation.org. That'd be an excellent a site to find a poetic term. And we notice that here's our glossary of poetic terms, and here's dramatic monologue. And as we read through, we notice that our first little line here, a poem in which an imagined speaker addresses a silent listener, usually not the reader. Well, that's a perfect definition for how Thomas Hardy uses dramatic monologue in The Man He Killed. So to gather this information for our wiki, all we need to do is highlight it and then copy that. Once we have it, now let's go back to our wiki. And then, of course, as always, before we can do anything, we need to edit it, hit our Edit tab. And here we have dramatic monologue definition. Let's just go right down here, and then we will paste what we have right there. Okay, now here's the main thing though, is that this is not our own words. We have taken this definition from someplace else. So we're going to use a tool called footnotes. And what the footnotes will let us do is make sure we remember where we got this information so that when we quote it later on in our research paper, we can properly cite it. So with our cursor right there after our text, let's go up into Insert, and we want to go into More Plugins, and we want to go to Teaching Tools, and we want to go to Footnote. And this is where we want to add the footnote. Well, what are we going to put here? Well, for our purposes right now, let's go back to our page and let's just copy our address. And for our purposes right now, right now we're not doing our research paper. We're just going to make sure we don't forget where we found this information. Then we'll come down here and we'll paste that information right in. And we'll hit Next. And again, it's going to show this. While we're in the edit mode, it's going to show that. So say Insert Plugin, and there it is. As always, once you have made a change, go down and hit Save. And here's what's cool now is that there's our footnote next to this, and now it's making a list down here on the bottom of all of the places where we found our information. So while we are actually doing our research, for our purposes, because we don't use footnotes in the MLA format, instead we use a works cited page and in-text citations. But for the purpose of the wiki, the footnotes are an excellent tool, so they let us, well, they keep us from forgetting where we found this information. So there's how we can paste text into our wiki, paste text into it, and then add a footnote so we know where we got that information.